So we're back with damage done. People, thank you for the people that still supported us. I know, our numbers aren't what we want them to be, but we are back again delivering another episode, as we said, for once. Thank God. And I'm super happy that the people that supported. And whether you're watching on YouTube, that corny like and subscribe thing actually means something, so do that, or fucking do the thumbs down or say something mean or nice, whatever. If you're listening, 3 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars, a comment, that stuff's cool too, man. But of course, we're bringing you stuff where it's just, this is true crime type of stuff, meets redemption, self-help, all that type of stuff. So we hope you guys stick around through the viewing, through the listening, to hear the whole arc of the story, because we don't just bring on people that don't have incredible stories. And today we do have just that. And I'm going to pass it over to Cesar to do some more of this introduction, because you're much more in tune with our guest.
For sure. Thank you, Mason.
Of course.
So yeah, we have a great show today. We have a young man that was arrested at a very young age, and given a extensive amount of time because of the crime that he was involved in. And we're here to hear his story. We have Juan Gamez. We want to hear from the beginning. We want to hear, how did you end up with the type of sentence that you were given as a kid, as a kid. And, for our viewers, man, this is his face might look familiar. He was in a documentary called They Call Us Monsters. I believe it was in 2016. The premiere. And then a lot of people watched it, so I watched it and I was very intrigued. And so this is why we have him on here today. We'd love to hear his story. And with that being said,
welcome, brother.
Thank you.
Welcome, man. I'm happy you're here. Truly. I'm happy you're free and able to talk to us, man. So there you go.
Give it to us, brother.
You want me to start from my country, the upbringing?
Oh, yeah.
My whole timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Whole timeline, man.
Man, I was born and raised in El Salvador, right? I was born in 1995. I was born the year that the Civil War was signed off, like the war ended, right? So I say that to say, like, it was very, like, chaotic still, right? I'm the second of 3 siblings. My father, he was very harsh on us. My mother, she typical Hispanic household, right? There was a lot of culture. There was a lot of good teachings, but there was also a lot of tough love and a lot of, well, for my father, a lot of alcohol, right? So my father was an alcoholic. And I was brought up in this toxic masculinity household, right? Where men don't cry and men fight and this, right? So, it was, I feel like it was a mixture. Even now when I reflect and when I was in prison writing my life story, I remember thinking a lot about my upbringing as negative, right? Now that I'm older and I'm able to reflect more, I am still thankful for the good lessons my parents instilled in me. But there was a lot of dysfunctional, right? So growing up, a lot of my early memories are seeing my father abusing my mother physically, right? Beating her and running away from him, right? Trying to escape. And like, it was very traumatic because as a kid, my father was my hero, but he was also the monster, right? He was also the person that I feared the most. And I developed that resentment towards him. I developed that anger, but also that guilt towards myself because I couldn't protect my mother, right? Because it was hard just standing there crying, asking him to stop, and he wouldn't stop, So that was very chaotic, He was also the first person that introduced me to alcohol at the age of 5, right? Because men drink, right? So at the age of 5, I think that the only thing I wanted to do was please him, right? I want my father to be proud of me. And I took that beer, right? My brother and I. So that was the negative aspects very early on in my childhood. He migrated to the United States when I was 6 years old. And that was the last time I saw him alive. He stayed in touch. He provided financially, but we never bonded. We never really became.
Sorry to cut you. Did you say that was the last time you seen him alive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So he passed when I was 11, And I say that I saw him then, but I saw him in a coffin, right? They sent his body back. So 6 years old was the last time I saw him alive. And that with that change, I felt like it was bittersweet because like he had left and there was no more violence. That was my thought. But there was also that boy, right? My father left. And my mother did the best she could. She had a lot of trauma in her life, so she wasn't always able to respond in a healthy way. But she was a single mother. She was a single mother. She hadn't dealt with her trauma. She was still dealing with my father even through the phone, right? So there was a lot of violence still. There was a lot of discipline, I should say. Very rough discipline for my brother and I. And growing up, I was like an average kid. Like I was used to like playing around. Like over there, like in those times, there was no phones, no video games, none of that, right? So I was just playing hide and seek, tag, running around crazy in the market, because my whole family worked in the market. So I'd be in the market and school. Everything was games, right? I was just remembering. I was asking my mom, "You remember all the songs we used to have to pick who was gonna count?" Like everybody would get in a circle, all the kids, and we would sing a song and rhyming, and then whoever like the song ended on, you gotta count,
right?
Things like that, right?
Sure.
Because my son, he's 11 now, and all he does is play video games, But he's also a single child, so he doesn't have like siblings to play around with. And I tell him, I'm like, man, when I was your age, I was out, man. I was just running around,
right,
playing soccer or something, right? So that was that was life for me in the early stages. And through all of this, there was always that gang element, right? I've always lived in gang infested neighborhoods, like, but I was naive to it, right? I would see them around. I would see them the way they dress, the tattoos on their faces, right? And it was something like almost like mystic about them, right? Like I didn't know what it meant, but I knew they projected something like greater, bigger than life, right? So it was appealing to say that, right? But I never really put thought into what it would be like to join. Even when my younger friends wanted to, I never really thought about joining because I was scared. I was scared of getting beat up or of doing other things to other people, right? But there was a point when so my father died when I was 11. He died in a car accident in New York, and then they sent his body back, right? So that was a big change for the family because my mother went into mourning, right? My mother started mourning his loss. That was the love of her life,
right?
And I took advantage of that because she was distracted. She worked all day and then she was distracted. So I took onto the streets, right? And in the beginning, it was just like finding some independence, finding a sense of freedom, right? Like running around. But like I said, like where I live was very gang infested. It was a very notorious area of the neighborhood I was from. So I immediately started bumping into people. I immediately started running into characters that were either affiliated to gangs or they were gang members themselves, right?
Yeah.
So I started to notice a big difference, right? A big difference in the way that they treated people, and it was absolute power, right? In the places where we lived, like the police was rare to be seen, right?
Okay.
But gang members were very much out there, and they have such a authority over people, right? So my brother is a year older than me, a year and 3 months, and at 12 we will start to get noticed by gang members, right? And you would think this is early. Like I see my son and he looks like an 8-year-old boy. He's 11,
right? Yeah.
But we were getting stopped. We would be like, "Hey, where you from?" And I'd be like, "I'm from nowhere."
Right.
So the next question would be like, "Where do you live?" So if you answer that and then is an enemy of that neighborhood, then they'll rob us.
It's still a problem.
It's still a problem, right?
Damn.
So
because there's only like 2 neighborhoods in El Salvador.
Yeah, at the time, yeah.
2 of the biggest neighborhoods out here in Los Angeles too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you were from the wrong neighborhood, so you were where you lived in El Salvador, it was the MS neighborhood.
Yeah.
So the rivals were the 18th streets.
Yes.
And that was the only 2
so
that
that goes all the way out 18 as well. Goes all the way out to El Salvador.
Yes, sir.
Shit, didn't know that.
Yeah.
And so that's what you were dealing with,
Yes.
getting hit up by both of those.
Both
at 12.
Yes.
All right.
At 12. So there was a big difference, right? It was a big difference, like I said, in the way that they approach you. Like there was they had so much control and influence, right, that you couldn't stand up to them. You know, realistically, you couldn't stand up. If you did, you were dead. That was the last thing you were gonna do, right? And then your family will pay for it too.
Damn.
So it was very harsh. And I remember that I started like the OCP, right? I started obsessing over this lifestyle, right? I started looking at it for the gains that I didn't have, the confidence, the false sense of confidence and power,
Sure,
right?
sure.
And you know, it became that obsession. And like I said, I started getting to know these people. I started getting to not hang out directly with them, but hang out with people that were related to them or people that knew them, right? And little by little, they will see me, right? So I remember this one time, it was my brother, two friends, and I, and they went to pick me up after school, and we got asked that question, "Where you from?" You know, and we were like, "Man, we're from nowhere." And then we were asked that follow-up question, "Where do you live?" So when my brother said where we live, they started like wanting to beat him, right? And because they were from the enemy.
Oh, they wanted to jump your brother because they found out that he lived in the rival
Yeah.
side
Okay.
of the
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm seeing this, and we're like in front of a bus stop, right? So I run and I grab my brother's arm and I pull him to the bus, and we all get on the bus. We didn't even care what route this bus was going. We just got on the bus, and then I just remember him saying, like, "Man, I'm tired of this shit, man. You know, I'm tired of this harassment. You know, if it's not one thing, it's another." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm tired of this shit too." So then my friends, you know, all of us were like, "Man, let's just join the gang, man. Might as well. We're already getting hit up. You know, we're already, you know."
The old if you can't beat them, join them.
Exactly.
Right mentality.
Yeah. So we were all in it. You know, we were like, "Hell yeah, let's do it." You know, and you know, that night, that was when like our fates changed. You know, that night we made a commitment that couldn't be broken. Right. So I was 13, my brother was 14, and my friends were like 16 and 14. My other two friends.
So
right?
all minors.
all minors, right?
Right.
And you know, like when I heard somebody say in prison, right? Like, why would I let a decision that I made as a child determine my life in the future? This was my childish decision. This was the age where I was like, and this
very impulsive,
right?
Sure.
But I took it to heart, you know, and I ran with it, you know, because he changed everything. Right now, I was affiliated, like I said, to one of the biggest gangs in my country, in you know, in other places as well. So there was a lot that came with it that I wasn't ready for. You know, there was a lot of responsibility, a lot of structure, and you know, I was naive to all that. Like, I didn't know how to handle it at the beginning, and then when my mother found out, she flipped out. You know, she flipped out. She heard from one of her friends that we were like out there smoking weed and running around, you know, and she confronted me with it, and I said, "Yeah, that's true." So she gave me an ultimatum. She said, "Well, look, if you want that, get your shit and leave, or if not, you stay here and you live under my rules." You know? And I said, and I didn't say anything. I just turned around and I grabbed my backpack and I left. You know.
Yeah.
And you know, my brother follow after me, and this is still 13. That year it was very chaotic. You know, 13, 14, and you know, like I didn't see my mother for like 6 months, and the next time I saw her, I was in a jail cell. You know, I got arrested. You know, for a crime I didn't commit, but I was in jail, and I remember thinking
in El Salvador.
Yeah.
Right.
And I remember thinking like, not regretting it. I was regretting it because I didn't like being locked up, but I just remember thinking next time I come back, I'm gonna be ready. You know, because for us over there, it was like prison is gonna be part of your life at some point. You know, so you're gonna have to like come. It's almost like you're proving yourself. You know, you're proving yourself that you can do time, that you can keep quiet. You know, that you can like manage it, right? So I was just like, next time I'm gonna be ready. You know.
Yeah.
And you know, it was very rough. The culture at the time, the gang culture at the time, it was very rough, very, very cruel. And I feel like it almost like I lost myself in it for a moment. You know, I lost myself, I lost my identity because I suppressed my true feelings about how I felt to wear the mask that allowed me to be evil, that allowed me to be mean, that allowed me to be a criminal, a hard criminal, a gang member, right? So, but on the other side, there comes the selfish desires, right? The selfish gain that I was getting, the false sense of glorification, popularity, acceptance, belonging, right? And it's almost like you overpower it, like for the instant gratification moment where when you feel that the homie gives you a thumbs up, right? Or tells you something like you did this right. It erases the remorse. It erases
that became your favorite drug.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The guilt, right?
Yeah.
And then like I said, I ran with it. I ran with it, and when the opportunity came to come to this country, I took it because I wanted to work. I heard that you can make a lot of money in this country, and I'm 14. I have my girlfriend at the time pregnant, 6 months pregnant.
Oh wow.
So my mother said, you can go over there and you can work for 6 months, save money, and come back and see your son, right? Because I have nothing to offer. I didn't know any trades. I was 14. I didn't have a job. So I was, all right, I can do that. And I came over here and I was working landscaping in San Diego for a while.
Okay.
How did you come over here? Because I was sharing earlier with Mason that, it's Mexico, then it's Guatemala, and then it's El Salvador.
Yeah.
So it's like you gotta have 3 borders to get over here, right? You weren't one of the ones in those trains, were you?
No.
The caravan?
Okay.
No.
Like no?
No.
How did you make it over here?
So I was fortunate. My mom had remarried after my father's death, and then he was a U.S. citizen. He was a Salvadorian, but he had a double citizenship. So he started fixing those papers, and that's how I got it first. I was the first one to get the green card. So they sent me along, because she knew that I was getting in trouble because my brother was already in prison over there. So she knew that it was a matter of time for me to get arrested or get killed. So she was like, I'm gonna just send you first, So she sent me, and then then I was here in the United States, and it was a culture shock, right? The language, like I didn't know anybody here. I knew a family member, but he wasn't like the best family member.
Yeah, where did you go? You just went to stay with the family member that you didn't know?
With a distant uncle.
Damn.
Yeah. So we're just working, Monday through Sunday, and I'm really not knowing the city because all we do is work,
Yeah.
And
what part of the city did you land in?
no, I went to San Diego, to Escondido City.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I was in Escondido for a little bit, and then they got their papers and they went to Boston because that's where my stepdad was living. So they flew me to Boston, and then I was in Boston for a little bit, and then we came to California, and he just abandoned us. My stepdad just left, disappeared.
Shit.
Right? So then I was working construction, and I was supporting the family, right?
At 14?
15 at the time.
15?
Yeah. So, my mom was trying to find jobs, and it was just my mom, my sister, and me, right? And I was working construction. And, for a while, I didn't have the urge to rejoin the gang, right? Because I thought I was going back. I was only here temporarily, right? But then my mother put me in high school, and I got mad because I didn't come here for school,
Yeah.
I came to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, she told me, she's like, you're not going back. You're a minor, and I'm not gonna send you back. So I got upset. I got angry. And that's when I started thinking, okay, well, if I'm not gonna go back, I gotta do something here for the neighborhood, right? Because they had told me, my ex homies had told me, like, hey, you gotta produce somehow, some way, right? Whether you're over there, we are over there too,
Right.
So I had that in my mind, but I also had like I wanted it because when I started going to high school, I didn't fit in high school. Because I didn't know English, right? I'm Salvadorian, right? I was a minority, and like I said, the culture changed. So the only places where I felt that I fitted in was with my countrymen or with my neighborhood countries, like people from Central America. Right? So that was the only people that I hung out with, So I always looked for my comfort zone.
Sure.
And that was my comfort zone. So I started to, again, obsessed with that idea. I'm gonna reunite with the gang here. If I'm not going back, I'm gonna rejoin here. And
Now let me ask you a quick question. You said, so you told your home, because you could have just picked up and left.
Yeah.
Right.
Why did you feel the need to say, hey, I'm going to the U.S.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be over there working. Like, why did you feel the need to let them know, and then they tell you, well, wherever you're at, you gotta make sure you produce, right? You gotta make sure you represent, because we're everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, why did you feel the need to let them know that you were coming over here?
That's a great question. The answer to that is well, it can be answered two ways, but really the answer to that is that I was so caught up in it, that I didn't see any other way out. Like this was like, I knew that they can be ruthless, right? One part of it was that I didn't want anything to fall on my family.
Mhm.
Sure.
But at the same time, like I didn't have that. Like I could have come here and never say anything and just completely like be whoever I wanted to be,
Mhm.
Sure.
and nobody could have known.
So was it a sort of like an insecurity for you
Yeah.
not to say nothing to, the
Mhm.
gang back home that you're leaving?
Yeah.
It's an insecurity because now the security blanket is when you come over here.
Yeah.
Even though we don't talk about it, they're there.
Yeah.
My backup is still here. What I was seeking in El Salvador,
Mhm.
that blanket's also here because we're also here too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, makes sense. It completely makes sense. And like at that time, I remember thinking like, what am I gonna do? Like, cause I had a moment when I was in LA, when I first landed in LA, and I was having friendships that were not gang members, were not gang related. They were
Mhm.
normal, average people, and they didn't know I was a gang member, so they didn't
Damn.
treat me like one.
So you're living like a secret identity.
Exactly, right?
Shit.
But I liked it. I almost felt like I could do it. I almost felt like I can be normal. For a split moment.
Oh, you liked being normal, like
Yeah.
feeling normal.
Yeah.
Was that that might have been the first time you felt normal then? That's probably why you liked it, right?
Yeah.
Is that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a way, yes. And I feel like I can do this, but then I remember the consequences of not reporting, the
Mhm.
consequences of not going back, right? And I said, nah, I'm not gonna do it, And like I said, I didn't have the confidence in myself to do something
Mhm.
different. I didn't believe that I can amount to anything other than a gang member.
yeah.
And that was a very like self-sabotage mentality, and so I made it a point to ask around in high school, where is MS territory, where is like their neighborhood, right? And my mother made the mistake of moving into my former neighborhood
Wow.
because the rent was cheap,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and she didn't know, because like an average people don't think like, oh,
Yeah.
what hood is over there? No, they think where's affordable housing,
Yeah.
But I think she might have also seen that this is where the community that I come from
maybe too.
is probably big too.
Yeah.
Like
Interesting.
certain areas,
Yeah.
there's there's the Mexican areas over here, the Salvadoran areas over here,
Mhm.
Guatemalan areas.
Yeah.
So I think she went to where she fitted, where
Yeah.
she felt she could fit in
Sure.
because this is where all my culture's from right here.
Yeah.
But didn't know that she landed right in the heart of.
So that's how you found your gang.
Yeah.
You got moved over there.
I moved over there, and then they confirmed. One of my classmates said that that is this neighborhood territory. So I just walked out, and I ran into somebody, and I asked them, like I banged on them. I was like, hey man, where you from?
Ooh.
And I just like, he happened to be from MS, and that's another thing that like it would have been all bad if it wasn't from there.
Yeah.
Because
Shit.
I didn't have anything. I
Yeah.
didn't, I didn't know anybody else.
Damn, you're going out there guns a blazing.
Yeah.
Like, hey. Shit.
and from then on, that was the last 6 months before my incarceration. So I was
Shit.
here for a year and 8 months
Okay.
in the US, but only the last 6 months I was an active gang member in this country.
And so that 6 months changed everything.
Everything, the whole trajectory, right? And it cost me 11 and a half years of my life. Yeah.
Going back to that time when you banged on that person, the initial thing, like how did that go? How did you get all of a sudden you got lucky apparently and he was from the same place you're from, but then what happened at that point in time? You guys shook hands and he's like, hey, let's meet some people, and then you started doing missions. Like what happened?
Well, yeah, so it's in a structure, so
Okay.
they wanted to know about me over there. So I have my phone numbers of people over there, and they wanted to introduce me to the people here.
Okay.
So it's like, let's find out that you are who you say you are, and then you can meet some people, right? So then that's exactly how it went, right? And when they talked to the people over there and they confirmed my identity, they were like, okay, you can come hang out.
Shit.
So from
What do you think the outcome would have been if it was a rival? Like, what were you prepared to do if, let's say, the dude you hit up was a rival gang member? What were you prepared? Like, did you have anything on you?
I didn't have anything.
Were you like, what was gonna be like? Oh, he's from over here. Oh, where are you from? Like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm from here. Like, what do you think the outcome would have been? Because that is pretty crazy.
That's wild to
It's
me.
pretty crazy to just to come out and say, hey, Hey, where are you from?
Yeah.
Right? Just anybody off the block.
Yeah.
In a new neighborhood, in
Yeah.
a foreign country.
That's that
Yeah.
teenage
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah.
Because you think
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
invincible. You probably didn't think of any you probably didn't
Yeah.
even think of that shit.
I didn't.
You're like, I'm just gonna find my people this way.
That's where the impulsivity comes
Yeah.
in, right?
Mhm.
You just be
Just-
impulsive and just let's go.
That's
But-
Did
crazy.
you say your father was affiliated too, or
No.
No.
No, my father, no. He was very dysfunctional, but he wasn't a gang member. He,
Yeah.
he hated gang members. Yeah.
Right, right. Okay.
Yeah. But I was prepared for anything. Like at that, like you said, like I felt invincible in those years. You
Yeah.
know, like I just came from a very like ruthless country. And I'm like I can do anything.
Yeah.
So if it would have come down to it, then yes, I would have done whatever I had to do, right? And
Alright.
without even like knowing the consequences, because I didn't think of the consequences. I didn't think jail. I didn't think death. I didn't think nothing.
Right.
I just made that impulsive decision.
So now, you reconnect
Yeah.
with your gang out
Yeah.
here. They know who you are. They know you're legit. They know, without getting into all these gruesome details, how did you end up in juvenile hall with the case that you ended up with?
So once I was here, the dynamics were very different. Like I said, I was coming from a country that was completely ran different. And it was this was the match for my country. So I began trying to implement the structure over there, and it just so happened that it was a few of us that were coming from over there, right? So we were this squad that was just pushing hard lines, and I felt like, again, like my comfort zone. I feel like this is where I feel I'm in my element.
Sure.
I feel comfortable. This is where I belong. And I had this like very like distorted idea of like, because my former neighborhood was born in LA, right? So I was walking the streets where my neighborhood was born,
Originated.
right? So I had that very distorted sense of pride that I was like, this was the origin, right? And I'm putting work in these streets, right? And I'm running these streets, right? And that distorted thinking like just got me to come to the point where like I wanted to prove myself, right? I'm the new kid in the block, right? I have to prove myself,
Shit.
right? So I was looking for opportunities to make a statement, and on October 26, 2011, I made the decision to kill someone, and it was a means to an end. It was a way for me to establish myself, to prove myself, and gain status in the game.
Sure. What when you say I made the decision to kill someone, it's a very, very intense statement.
Yeah.
Like what is that in your mind? Like what was that process of like a decision like that? Can you recall?
Yes. So one thing that I came to understand about myself is that the beliefs that I held, right, were so powerful that I believe that any person belonging to a enemy neighborhood deserved to die, right? That these people are the people that would take one of my brothers out, right? That will hurt my family.
Sure.
And I'm talking about my former gang, right? Because at this point, I already saw my former gang as my family, right? So I'm not gonna give them the chance, right? How many of them are out there that I felt at the time? And I take one out, that's one less people that can hurt my brother, right? Or can hurt me, right? So I had this very distorted sense of thinking. And it just so happened that Mr. Davian, the man I killed, we had a confrontation 2 weeks prior, right? And he ran away because I chased him. I was trying to hurt him. And he ran away dissing my former neighborhood, right? And that was everything. That was all that I needed, to narrow in on him and say, no, I'm gonna hunt you down and I'm gonna take you out, because for the next 2 weeks, I was waiting for that. I was on the look for that, right? And there was nothing else on my mind than taking him out, And that's why I say I made that decision, right? Because nobody told me, nobody forced me.
Right. That's right.
It was just me,
And that's the crazy part about the whole gang lifestyle is that you have this distorted belief system that you ran away dissing my neighborhood, and that's you can't do that.
That's
That
like
I'm not gonna let
the
you
worst
get
thing
away
you
with
could
that.
do in your
That's-
mind.
Yeah, that's like the worst thing, and I'm gonna hunt you down. And because again, I'm seeking that status, that
Yeah.
recognition, because I'm coming away from El Salvador to a gang that's already established out here. I want to make sure that these guys know what they're getting.
Yeah.
Right.
A violent, notorious
a
gang.
violent, they're getting someone that doesn't care about what the outcome is. It's all about representing where I'm from, because even though the gang was originated here, you were jumped in El Salvador.
Yeah.
So now you got to prove to them, like, okay, I got jumped in over there, but I'm in LA now.
But I'm serious.
So I'm not going to get another jumping because I'm already from here, right? So now I'm going to prove. I have to prove to you that I have it in me,
Yeah.
you know. And that's the distorted belief system that a lot of, not only Juan, myself, millions of us have that belief system that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's all about, you know, representing where you're from, your family, and one less I have to worry about.
Right.
One less I have
That's
to
the
worry
only
about.
way you're thinking of it. There's no other way to think about it, right?
No, that's it. That's
Fuck.
it. You know, now you're 15.
16.
16.
You're 16. So we're in October of 2011 at this point in time. So you said you've been waiting 2 weeks, and you've been obsessing over this.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gathering.
Mhm.
How did that happen? Like, it was a by chance, or like you figured out where the person was at? Like, how did that come to pass after 2 weeks?
Yeah, so I knew that he frequented the MacArthur Park,
Mhm.
and that was where we used to hang out too. Because MacArthur Park was divided, I think, in like 3 or 4 sections at the time,
Mhm.
Okay.
4 different neighborhoods. So he used to frequent one of the areas, right? And I used to hang out on the other. So, like I said, I told everybody from my neighborhood around the area that if they see him, that they give me a call. Right?
Okay.
He's mine.
Yeah, and I
Wow.
had the gun. I used to carry the gun with me, my bicycle on all times, and they gave me that call, and I was like 2 blocks away, and I just jumped on it. I said okay, and I just got my bike and I pedal, and at this moment, like, I wasn't alone. I was my co-defendant, and he was my road dog. He was like, there was no questions about like whether he was gonna do it with me or not. So I just told him, hey, be my lookout, just be my lookout.
Right.
And I parked the bike like a block away, and I just walked, cowardly walked behind him and shot him. I didn't give him a chance.
You never saw it coming.
No, and I think that was the biggest thing that I remember thinking, like if he would have saw me, he would have ran, because he knew, like he had walked away from me before. Like he saw me like half a block away, and he got up and started walking.
Right.
So unfortunately that night, because it was already like almost dark, like he didn't see me coming.
Right.
And at the time, like I felt accomplished. I felt it was like I had such a sick mentality that I felt accomplished. Like, I went home that night and I slept, and next day I went to high school.
There was no problem.
And
Fucking A, man.
no, and I remember thinking that, like, I was in high school and I'm just having lunch, and I had this friend of mine, this girl, but I remember I was just, because I was reflecting, I was just looking around me and all these kids, right? And I was just like, man, if you guys knew what I just did last night, right? And she said, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay, and I didn't say nothing, and like, there was help, right? I remember I had like one of the counselors, like she would see me too, because I look hopeless, I'm like, I be going to high school, like I like bald-headed, tattoos on my head, and it used to make me wear like one of the school hats, because I was the only kid that was allowed to wear a hat in class.
Because you had tattoos.
Tattoos.
You're like, that's how you get the hack.
And
That's funny.
and I'm going back after weekends of partying. I smell like tobacco and beer, and I'm just like, I haven't slept in 3 days, and I'm just there, So she would see me, and she would ask me, like, what's wrong with you? Like, you need help? Like, but like I said, I was just like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, this is where I belong.
This is what it is.
Yeah, that checks. I mean, think about even before that crime that was committed. He's been living in as an adult, a child as an adult for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
You've left the country. You've been providing for your family. You have a child, and now you're on a path of violence.
Yeah.
And
Was
there's-
your kid already born at the time?
Yeah.
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 My
And was he here with you in LA?
No,
No?
this is my second son. So I had,
Oh my goodness!
yeah.
I thought he only had one.
He's a full grown adult at
Yeah.
15,
I thought
man.
you only had one kid. You have
Just
two.
doing
Yeah.
adult shit. He's
More
been
life
drinking.
experience than your teachers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, what are you
You
talking
know?
about? Are you? are you okay?
Yeah.
You
Like
know what I
you're
mean?
supposed to do homework.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no homework
Yeah.
being done.
No.
I have
So,
2 children.
Can I honestly say a lot of time? I mean, I had a lot of homeboys used to do that too. They used to just go to school for lunch.
Yeah.
It was a place for them to eat.
Yeah.
You get
you
free
know?
meal, huh?
Yeah, the free meal. Like they didn't really care about the education. They just
Probably
cared about
business too, I would imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably. You know. But yeah. So how long did it take before the crime was committed to when you got it? Like, how was that whole scene looking like?
3 months. I
3
got
months.
arrested 3 months later, right? So they couldn't pin it on me, you know. But I was under investigation. So and I remember I feel like I'm being followed, but I couldn't pinpoint it, you know.
Mm.
So I was out there for 3 months, and it went to my head, you know. Like I got that instant gratification of like this false sense of respect,
Mhm.
glory, right?
So after you committed the crime,
Yeah.
you were like living on a high of like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah,
That's what was carrying you through that time.
exactly.
The chest got bigger,
For
Yeah.
sure.
right?
Yeah,
Damn.
and unfortunately that was what it was. And on January 8th, I tried to kill somebody else, and I got
Mm.
arrested for that. I got arrested for an attempted murder, and thank
Wow.
God he survived. You know, thank God he survived. And he gave him a statement, and that was the one identifying factor that tied me to him was this.
Mm.
Oh,
three
the
dots.
3 dots
The
on the
3
chest.
dots.
Yeah,
I thought it was part of your beard, man. That's
Yeah.
crazy. But you probably didn't have
I
that.
didn't have that
at
at 16.
fucking 16.
No, this is 20
Damn.
years in the making. Yeah.
Shit. All right.
Yeah. And so that was the thing, right? And I was the only one that got arrested for it. I wasn't the one that stabbed him, but I was the one that confronted him and
Mhm.
beat him. And because I never gave my homie's name, so he went on a coma for 2 weeks,
Oof.
and then after he got out of the coma, he changed his statement saying that I was the one that stabbed him, right?
Mm.
So
Mm.
I never gave up the homies' names, and then so I was in it for that one, and I was fighting my fitness. I was fighting
Fitness,
to stay in juvenile court, right?
Mhm.
I wasn't
Oh,
even.
because they want to try as an adult.
They
Yeah.
wanted to try me as
Okay.
an adult, and then
Damn.
they just threw the other case on me, and that was the one that sent me straight to adult court.
Wait, you're saying they threw the initial
The
murder
murder.
on
Yeah.
you? So you were under investigation for the murder.
Yeah.
And then you committed the attempted murder,
Mhm.
and then they hit you with that. Did you have any idea you're under investigation that
No.
whole time?
Mm-mm.
So they were just in the cut building
Yeah.
a case on you,
Building the
and then they're
case.
like, we have enough on him now to hit him.
And I can honestly tell you just by what he's sharing right now,
Yeah.
they didn't have enough evidence to prove on the attempted murder that he had a crime, that he wasn't going to give up his crime. So guess what? You don't want to give up your crime? Well, then we're going to go tell the victim to say it was you.
Exactly.
That's,
you know,
that's how it
because
goes.
that's how it goes. That's what they do. This is why all these laws have been changed, because
Yeah.
young men like Juan and myself and others that were tried as adults in juvenile court were just, they couldn't get the right
Evidence?
the right evidence, so they would just say, you know what, forget all that.
Right.
Let's
Right.
just go. What he did it,
Yeah.
and the dude got stabbed. He was in a coma. He ain't got what else? Yeah, of course. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
he
him.
did it,
Yeah, he did it. It was
Yeah.
him.
and he probably wants some justice. He doesn't matter. He
Yeah.
knows he was around. It's
You know,
enough.
well, he knows he's probably gonna get life.
Yeah.
So he's not gonna see him ever again unless he gets arrested. You know. And so that's what they were. That's what I feel like they were doing.
Yeah.
They say, you know what, he's not going to give up his crime partner.
Right.
So let's just say that he's the one that did the stabbing by
Now,
himself.
let me ask you a question. It might be silly, but like, fucking, is there a possibility that you never get charged for the murder if you never do this attempted murder? Or do you think
There was.
like you could have got away forever with it?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, like I'm just there, right? And I'm 16, and when I went to adult court, that's when shit got real, right? Because in juvie, I remember hearing, and I'm like, well, hopefully I do get juvenile life instead of going to adult court, or I just get 3 years for assault with a deadly weapon or something, right? So I was okay with that, right? I was okay with that amount of time. But when I went to adult court, and they were like, nah, the least we want to give you is like 80 to life.
Ooh.
So I'm like, oh,
What did you feel
man.
like when you heard that for the first time?
Man, like I just like my heart sunk.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, man, I fucked up. you
As
know?
at that time, was that the first time you stopped feeling invincible, or did you feel?
No, I wasn't feeling invincible anymore.
Okay, yeah.
He was feeling vulnerable at
Yeah.
that time.
No. I mean,
You
of
know?
course, when you heard it, he felt vulnerable, but I didn't know if that was the moment where you're like, oh, now I feel vulnerable instead of invincible.
Yeah.
No, you know what? I felt it was crazy because I feel so like I feel like I had messed up when I was the first night in juvie. before the term as an adult.
Okay.
When I hit the cell, because I remember that, you know, like I said, I was living a very fast-paced life, but I was also carrying a lot of pain, right?
Sure.
So I had a lot of dysfunctionality in my house, and the only person, so my mother, right, the woman that raised me, I had developed a very like toxic relationship with her, and I feel like you know, like she didn't care about me, right? And of course I was wrong, but I felt like she didn't love me, she didn't care about me. And she had told me, she was like, if you ever get arrested, forget you have a mother. You know,
Damn.
you're never gonna see me again, right? So when I was there in the cell, I was like, well, this is it. I'm on my own. I expect no visits. You know, I was like, I'm it's just me.
Which is
Yeah.
far from the truth. Because
Yes.
that's exactly what my mom told me.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the thoughts that I had about my mom. I felt like they didn't care. I
Yeah.
felt like my sister was getting all the breaks and I was being neglected, and what I needed I couldn't have. So but those are the thoughts that actually fuel
The anger.
the rage and the anger of us doing what we do.
Right.
Right? Like, we give ourselves permission
Yeah.
to act on these because we feel, well, nobody cares anyway, so why should I
Exactly.
care about you?
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Which is all false. It's a false belief system also.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes. So that was the moment where I feel like there was like what do you call those things? Like a veil?
Yeah. A veil was lifted.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I was like, man, I messed up. You know, I messed up. But I didn't allow myself much time to reflect on it because I'm here. It's juvie. It's toxic. It's hostile. You know. So I'm like, I cannot break it down. I cannot like let this fools get the best of me either. You know.
Shit.
So
especially
Yeah.
especially being where you're from
yeah.
and having so many rivals in
sure.
juvenile hall, because in juvenile hall you're fighting your rivals,
Yeah.
not like the county, right? In juvenile
Yeah.
hall you're fighting your rivals. So now you're in juvenile hall. How many months are you into where this opportunity gets presented to you about this documentary?
Maybe like about a year.
You're-
Year, because I was in juvie. My whole time in juvie was a year and 9 months, and I remember the documentary was the last 6 months. I think. Yeah, the last 6 months.
The last 6 months of you being in juvie
juvenile.
was the documentary. That's
Yeah.
yours. Okay.
Yeah,
Got it.
so a year and 3 months, something like that. And I know that. No, I don't remember how I got picked. Like I don't remember exactly. I remember that maybe Scott Budney went up and he presented a project. And the way that it was pitched to us was that let's create awareness about you guys, right? The juveniles that are being tried as adults. And the purpose of the Carlos Monsters was to play in the assembly for SB 260. When SB 260 was gonna get voted on, to play clips of it so they can see these are the kids that you guys are voting for, either for or against, right? So I was like, man, let's do it, you know, let's do it. And there was an elimination process. I think that the judge had like the last say. So we requested permission to the judges, and they have the last say. So to say like, yes, I will allow cameras in my courtroom or not, right, or something like that.
Yeah.
So a few guys got like disqualified because the judges, some of them because they were messing up, and I don't know like just how we ended up being the last 4, you know, that got picked. But
And don't lose your frame of thought, but just for our audience, Senate Bill 260 is a Senate bill that was actually passed around 2013, where the Board of Parole hearings take into consideration that they're still kids, that their mind hasn't been fully developed, that they shouldn't be looked at as monsters
Okay.
because their mind hasn't been fully developed. So still look at them as kids. Yes, they committed heinous crimes, but they're still kids because their brain is not fully developed until they're 25. So when this law was passed, it gave a lot. I'm a recipient of Senate Bill 260.
that
It's come
brought
up
you home.
most podcasts.
Yeah.
after SB 260.
Because that's the only way that the lifers came home, right?
Yeah. So
That
that
so
changed everybody's
it
life.
wasn't it wasn't a for sure though.
Okay.
But they took into consideration the fact that he was a kid,
yeah.
Yeah.
that he was still a kid, that he wasn't an adult. Even though he's being tried as an adult, he wasn't a kid.
It's crazy they had to change a lot to do that.
And that law not only helped
Right.
myself and Juan, but then they moved it to Senate Bill 261, which is if you were 21 and
23
under,
and under.
20 or 21 and under, I believe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. And then 1437 came, which is if you're 25 and under, you're still considered.
A juvenile,
Yeah.
or juvenile offender or something.
Yeah.
That's
So
what
even
car insurance. You can't
Yeah.
rent a car till you're 25.
Does that
I mean,
happen
yeah.
for even people with life without?
SB 9 was for like.
Well, if you were
Because I have someone in there, a
If-
buddy of mine, and he's got life without, but he did his crime at 18, 19 years old.
no, If they're trying to change it right now, but if he committed this crime when he was already 18, then no. But if he committed it at 17, you know, even if it was a day before he turned 18, he would definitely.
No, it's not.
He wouldn't even go to court. He would just go get resentenced and be given a sentence of 25 to life, and then he would have an opportunity to go to the parole board.
So he's not getting out, my buddy.
Well, there's because I don't want to get off topic with his story, but people think, well, LWAP, I'm never going to come home. No, there's commutations. You know, there's commutations that people can file once every governor's term. They can file a commutation where you've been disciplinary free for a long time, and you've been rehabilitated for a long time, and you can actually file a commutation to the governor. Says, hey, you know, I've been, you know, not been getting in trouble. I have all these groups under my belt. I facilitate. I do all this stuff. I give back. I'm being of service in prison, and it's up to the governor's discretion whether he chooses to. And there's been a lot of people out here. There's so many people out here that were once LWAP that were really never going to see daylight that are home now. Right. They're very successful. So they're trying to go away from that. Right? They're trying to go away from LWAPs and actually just have everybody do 25 to life. Because there's a lot of great people that committed some heinous crimes, but there's a lot of great people that actually do deserve to be out here because they've done a lot of work. A lot of work, and then this is one of them right here. This is why he's home.
When you were going through your trial, or when you were in juvie, how was your English?
Broken. Very
broken.
Yeah.
Did that affect the process at all?
It was confusing because once I started understanding what they were saying, and they'll put translators on me, it was more confusing. You know. But you know, I didn't go to trial, so I feel like there was not a lot of communication that I needed to understand. It was pretty much like courts are short. You remember, like if you have nothing like a preliminary hearing or a trial is very short. So I just remember that when I got sentenced, that was the longest. I think. Oh, my preliminary hearing and my sentencing, those were the two longest courts at that time. You know?
Because you took a deal.
I took a deal.
You took a deal for 25 to life.
15
to life. 15 to life.
Sure.
So as a documentary is being filmed, and you have all these cameras, obviously, like right now, following you, how did that make you feel? Like, was it back to being like you were in the street, or was it more of like, I don't want the cameras to see me, or because they were like following you guys? And I know Jared was, we know Jared. Jared was a clown of the documentary, and he was the quiet one. He was the quiet one, and I always thought like, man, what's going on here? Like, now what he said, what the question you asked right now, well, how was the English? Okay, maybe now I know why he was quiet. Because he wasn't able to speak much because he wasn't very familiar with the language.
Interesting.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah. You know why it feels so real? I remember like, because we're getting a little bit of freedom inside. You know, we were taken to this unit that was empty, and we're hanging out. Like, we're just hanging out longer than we're allowed because we only had like 1 hour a day room at night, and besides the 1 hour yard, right? So we're just enjoying it. You know, we're hanging out with cool people. We're doing something productive. And I think that I had these moments where I would just look around the room and I'd be like, it's surreal. You know, I can't believe I'm being part of this project. Like, it was something that for me growing up in my country, I would have never thought. I would have never imagined like I had an opportunity like that. Even though I had it for a very bad decision I made and I was in jail, I would have never imagined that I was going to be part of a documentary, So I was thankful. I was very thankful for that.
So when the final cut came out, obviously they showed it to you guys, so you guys could see it. And then they showed it to everybody else in juvenile hall, or just to you guys?
No, so remember, this is 2013. And then I turned 18 and we went to county jail. So Jerry and I got transferred at the same time. The documentary premiered 2016. I was already in Ironwood. I was in prison when it premiered.
So you already got sentenced when it premiered. Shit.
Yeah. I was already in Ironwood when it premiered. And I was with Jerry over there too. Yeah. And they called us to the program office and they were like, hey, we can, like, they sent the CD of the documentary and they played it for us. And before it premiered. And it was just like, for me, it was so weird. To look at myself.
To watch yourself?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I look so
this is how I feel when these
oh, my shirt.
My shirt. That's how I feel. I feel weird, man.
I get
it. So welcome to the club.
Yeah.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah. Shit.
I was embarrassed. I was like, why did I say that? Or like, and you know what? They helped me out with some editing because I remember there was a few words that I wasn't pronouncing right at that time, and they didn't put him there. So
That's why we have Brian.
yeah.
That's what Brian's here.
Yeah, for sure.
But
Damn.
it was so that was the final okay, and then 2016 it premiered. So it did play in the assembly on when SB 260 was being rallied for, and the show was the Clive Scott show was the film when he went to Juvenile Hall, and it was just amazing. It was just like, man, like, you know, because that was the whole purpose of it, and then it blew out. Like, I guess nobody foresaw that it was gonna be a big thing. You know, like I never thought it was gonna be a big thing.
It changed. Changed so many people's hearts, bro.
Yeah.
Seriously, like it changed so many hearts. Where the person he's talking about, Scott Budnick, he was playing this for people, and his whole thing was, he goes, if it was my son that had committed this kind of crime, he wouldn't have gone through what he did. Why? Because of the money that I have, and he wouldn't be in jail. He wouldn't be where he's at right now. Yeah. So that was his sticking point, where he was telling people, because of you know, the background,
of his resources.
Yeah. The background that he doesn't have, he's stuck in there.
Yeah,
for sure, stuck in there.
And he changed that documentary changed so many minds, where people were literally looking at all the juveniles that were being arrested and tried as adults as monsters. This is why I believe that documentary was the perfect title.
Yeah.
Because that's how they looked at us. They looked at us like monsters. Like, how can you do that? Like, where do you hear that happening? Why would you do something like that? Right. But again, he's a kid. He's 16, 17, 15. There's some that were at 14. 14. Yeah. You know? So man.
And this documentary came out like the same year the vote was.
Yes. Yes, it was played. So
it was played in the assembly 2013.
Oh, wow.
When they were voting for it. But it premiered 2016. So remember, because the whole thing was to, I guess Ben Lear, I don't know if he had it, the idea the whole time, or he figured out on the way, but the whole point was to play it in the assembly.
Yeah.
So some clips of it were played in the assembly before it became the Carlos Monsters. And then it became the Carlos Monsters in 2016 as a full documentary.
Right.
Yeah. So that's when it blew it right? That's when it got a lot of attention, it got a lot of views, and it went viral, and it went to a lot of theaters. I heard they were playing it in theaters.
Damn.
And even like in Australia, I had people writing me from Australia, from England.
Tell us about the fan base to this trip. Tell us about the fan base that got you with the documentary.
Well, man, you know what? It was good. It was good because like I would have never thought, like I was the guy in prison that I never got mail, I never got visits, I never really tripped on phone calls, you know,
right? Because
you know, like I have my family, but it's different, you know. Mom, I call it like once a week or like once a month, and I'm okay, I'm alive, you know. Okay, that's cool, right? And my son was too little to talk to me, so you know, I never really tripped on it, you know. And then I had like somebody from high school, the first girl that wrote me. And I would have never thought I connected with this girl, right? But she saw the documentary and she reached out, you know, and that was the first of a lot of letters like that.
Damn.
A lot of girls that will offer support, that will offer friendship, and some wanted more, you know. But it
was
yeah,
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was cool, you know. It was,
of course, especially when you're lonely like that,
lonely,
in an unforgiving place,
young man,
and you're like, shit, I'm getting this type of attention. That would like.
Do you feel like my heart? Do you feel like that attention in the documentary like contributed to you changing your life?
You know what? Definitely it was a factor, right? Because I remember that, like, again, I never thought I would have this, you know. And then like I remember when I started getting letters from, like, there was a lady in West Virginia that asked me to kind of like write letters to her brother, younger brother that was messing up, right? And I was like, man, like they asking me to kind of like mentor this kid that I don't know and maybe I'm never gonna meet. And it was just like humbling, you know. And it will make me feel like I can do it, you know. Like people see me, people see something in me, they see potential, and you know, like I liked it. I liked that because I got to be somebody different with these people, right? I wanted to be genuine. I wanted to just be myself. I didn't want to be the gang member, you know. I didn't want to be the prisoner. I wanted just for them to meet me, you know. And when I got that response back, it was again like some kind of normalcy. I was having a little piece of freedom in these letters, you know.
Mhm.
Dang.
And yeah, it was. I'm very thankful. You know, I had great friendships. I still talk to a few of the girls. I met my wife like that, you know, and it
Oh,
was
you
like,
did? You met your wife that way?
yeah,
Shit.
yeah. So you know, it was you know,
No guys were writing.
yeah. I got a friend.
Oh, okay.
Friend, my
Yeah,
buddy
yeah,
Greg. Yeah, he wrote me for support. You know, great people. I'm still friends
Yeah.
to this day. You know, we hang out sometimes.
Is that the
Yeah.
one from the last time?
Yeah, you met
Okay.
him.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
So
know,
it did change your life.
it did.
I could honestly picture the CO in front of his cell. Gamez,
Yeah.
Gamez,
Yeah.
Gamez,
Yeah.
Gamez. Like that's because that's how they do, right? They ask you for your last two. Like, Gamez.
Yeah.
Not just sliding all this mail
You got
under
some
his
damn
door.
fan mail,
under
man.
his door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
No,
his celly mad because he's getting all this mail. He ain't getting no mail. You know, that's the funny part.
I had a
right
good
there.
celly. Yeah. Marco, you never remember. He was in the class with us too in Ironwood.
No, so this is the cool part where you know, I'm doing the work with the heart team with ARC and
When you're going back, like hoping
yeah.
redemption. Yeah.
and I walk into Ironwood and I have a class and I see this guy and I go, where's this guy? That's familiar. And then I see
Right.
Jared, like, oh my goodness, they're both here.
Yeah.
You know? So it was really cool to see them after seeing the documentary and then seeing them as your students, you know, and then they're looking at you for guidance.
Damn.
They're looking at me for like, okay, this guy's gonna help us get
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
You know, so that was pretty awesome. That was awesome for me.
And you did
And then
help him get home.
the person that he mentioned earlier, Ben Lear, which is the producer, he actually reached out to me and my coworker Jamel, and he said, "Hey man, I want to do a follow-up. I want to do a follow-up to the College Monsters." So they started recording us going into the prison.
Shit.
But then I don't know what happened. It got shut. I don't know what happened, but they never followed through. But they did some filming in the classroom
Yeah.
while they were there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because Juan was my student for maybe about what, like a few months, right?
few
'Cause
months.
then you got transferred.
I didn't get to finish it because you mailed me the certificate.
Yeah,
remember?
yeah.
Yeah. And I was lost, man. I was like, that was very early stages because I was the guy in the class. You remember I was negative.
Mhm. Yeah.
I was negative. I remember you asked me one time something about celebrating birthdays, and I was like, "There's nothing to celebrate." You know?
Mm.
Yeah.
And you made an example
Yeah.
out of me. He was like, "See, that's exactly what you don't want."
My man.
Yeah, but
Were you the youngest one in the group?
probably
Yeah.
no. There was a few other young guys.
Yeah, there was a few young ones.
because I
few
was
young
in the
ones.
youth offender.
Yeah.
yard.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
The cool thing about his yard is the older people that were there were mentors to a lot of the
Yeah.
youth.
Mhm.
That was a pretty cool yard because they had so many programs in that yard, bro. It was unbelievable. Like
Where was this? This
in
is-
Ironwood and
Ironwood.
C Yard.
Yeah.
yeah.
And that C Yard had like vocational trainings like coding and
I was in there. I was in coding.
coding
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Braille. Braille.
Yeah.
Like these guys are from that. Like there are so many. I mean, I can't even put a number on it, bro.
The
How many
college.
people have paroled from
Yeah.
that yard that he
Yeah.
was in because they had so much programming there, and you know they had someone there of authority too
Right.
that was overseeing them,
Yeah.
but he was all for it. Like
Yeah.
go to school, go to college, go home.
Yeah.
Right,
Right.
right,
You know,
right.
and he was very supportive, and I'm thankful that I got to meet him, and he was
Yeah.
able to be very supportive towards them
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
their rehabilitation process. Because a lot of times it's not like that everywhere. A lot of people be like, no, get out here
Yeah.
and go post up and be over there. Like, no, they were very supportive, and
Yeah.
and I think that's the only yard that I would say, me personally, that was one of the best that I loved going into, because everyone there was so positive. You know, everybody there wanted to go home. Everybody, they would create groups, right?
Yeah.
They would create groups amongst themselves
Right.
to better themselves, and
Mhm.
it wasn't like a manipulation. It was
No.
more of a
Remember Mark Taylor?
yeah.
Yeah, he will create curriculums. Yeah,
Yeah.
and facilitate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I was like I said, early stages. I was sitting in the class, and for AA, you know how when you say your name, you be like, "My name is Juan, and I'm a recovering alcoholic."
Right.
I just be like, "My name is Juan. I'm just here for the board." You know, because I want a
Damn.
signature, right?
I'm here for the
Yeah.
chrono.
and for
Yeah.
the
I'm here
chrono.
for the chrono.
Yeah, because I wanted to be straightforward too. Like I'm thinking, don't call me on it. I don't want to participate. I'm just here because board mandates it. You know.
Mm.
And I remember it was one of the classes like yours, that Mark Taylor, that little things will start to sink in, you know. And you heard me talk about it the other day when I went to talk to the kids, and it was the first time that you gave us the homework assignment to write a remorse letter, you know, write a remorse letter, and I had never done that. had never done that before. And you guys gave us that homework assignment, and and I remember you said, like, go to the cell, wait till you're alone, and just focus, just put everything, like, put yourself in his shoes, right? And I'm not gonna say like I already felt bad for what I have done, but I didn't have the insight into everything. I hadn't completely put myself in his shoes, and I did it. I did it for the first time because I heard a lot of examples of the guys in the class too, because I didn't know how to go about it. I didn't know how to start. Like, it's something that it's almost like your mind blocks it. You don't want to face it. Because that once you find that humanity again, it's like, nah, man, I fucked up. Like I heard it so many people. Like, not just him. Like, yes, it's horrible. Like when I thought about it, and I was like, man, like, because he bled to death alone. Because he ran. Like, the adrenaline hits, and he ran. So by the time he collapsed, I was gone. But then I started thinking, like, what was his last thoughts?
Damn.
What was the last things on his mind, right? And just to think, like, man, and your mind probably wants to run, but your body doesn't obey you, right? You, in your mind, you want to get up and you want to run, but your body says no. And then like because my father, when he passed, they say he didn't die instantly, right? So he died in a car crash. And I would think, when I was little, man, what was his last thoughts? Did he think of me? Like, and of course, like, I've been faced with, like, after when I was game banging, I never had that moment of, like, my life flashing to my eyes, but I had moments close to it, and and you feel like, oh shit, man, like, shit gets real, and then, like I said, like, I put myself in his shoes, and I was just like, nah, man, like, I don't want to go out there to the yard and put up this front and glorify that,
Right.
because in the gang culture, you don't allow yourself to feel remorse. You celebrate these accomplishments, right? You celebrate the distorted sense of, like, I did that, right? And I felt so fake, going out to the yard, because I was making some good decisions. I was never fully, like, I wasn't, like, active, like, with the sense of, like, I was, like, pushing lines and doing but I was with it, I was always like there, like, if something needed to be done, I was gonna do it, and I was in an active yard, and then I was gonna be part of it, right? But I wasn't raising my hand for things. I wasn't, like, pushing lines on there, right? But even just I was just going through the motions. Even that felt fake. Like, I felt so, like, I was betraying myself, because on the other hand, I was going to classes, I was going to college, I was going to computer coding, right? I was having normal friends, like people, like, not normal friends, but like people that were trying to change their lives, like my celly, like the mentors, like people that were in the classes trying to help us out, and I felt like I was betraying myself. I felt so fake.
Shit.
And I made that decision. I said, well, like, if I jumped out of this, if I get out of this, I know the consequences. I know that there will be physical consequences, and that was one fear aspect, right? But there was also, like, like, what, like, they what are they gonna say, right? Like, they're gonna look at me different. They're gonna think I'm weak. They're gonna think I'm a punk, right?
Right.
And I said, and actually, there was a guy that went and talked to me from my former gang, and he was like, like, the homies are looking at you, because I started avoiding them. I stopped hanging out with them. I would just pass by here and there. Hey, what's up? And I was gone. So I was using education to kind of, like, create distance, groups and everything. And they noticed that. So then they were like, what's wrong with you? And I said, well, it's now or never, and I was like, well, you know what? I'm done, man. I want to change my life.
Fuck.
I want to do something different. Like, the reason why you see me pulling away is because I want to be out, like, I don't want to be this person no more. I said, I actually want to change who I am. And he was understanding. He didn't completely respect it, but he told me, he was like, well, you know what, man, if you're going to walk this line, make sure you walk straight. Because if you deviate to the right or the left, we're going to be there to correct you,
Damn.
But I can tell you that, but they're not going to tell you that. So be aware of that, right?
So basically, you said, I'm not doing anything to you, but I can't speak for everyone else.
And it was like 13 of us in the yard, So, like, we were one of the deepest gangs in the yard, and sure enough, there came the wave, they came the pressure, the threats, and I'm not saying anything, right? I'm there, and this is not supposed to happen, especially with the people that were in the yard at the time. But like, I always saw it like nothing that they can do to me compares to what I have done to people, to the pain and suffering that I caused so many people. And I just told myself, I'm gonna take it, man. You know, this is nothing. You know, and I was so prideful that I wasn't gonna ask for help. I wasn't gonna go to the other side. You know, I was just gonna take it. You know, and I told myself, like, man, like, because there was one point where it got close, man. This, you know, only by the grace of God, like I made it to this, right? I had just got my appendix removed, and we were on lockdown, so nobody noticed that I was out. Nobody noticed that I went out 6 days out to the hospital. And when I came back, it was a Friday, and we got off lockdown on Sunday. And that Monday, I had to go to education to take a test, a college test. So I walk in there, and there's like 3 dudes from my former gang right there in the education department, and they see me and they get out and they're like, "Hey, when you're done, go to the restroom." You know, I have the stitches on me. I have the draining hole open. You know, they only gave me a Band-Aid, right? so. And I'm just like, I didn't say anything, you know, and I thought to myself, and I'm like, okay, so I have 3 choices, right? I'm either gonna go to the cop and tell him, hey, I can be here, I'm afraid, you know, and I go SNY, or I go and I tell him, hey, you know what, like, I just got surgery, give me like 2 weeks, and then I fight you guys, you know, it's all right, or I just go at it with this, you know, and I'm probably gonna die because this is gonna open up.
Fuck.
And I took the last one, and I went, and I was like, well, I'm done, you know, I'm not gonna call for help, I'm not gonna break it down, I'm just gonna go for it. So I started walking, and they blocking the door, right? So they like right there, just blocking the door. And I had an e-reader. So I just grabbed that, and I was like, let's go. And then you remember C.O. Parker?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he comes out of the office, and he's like, oh, Gamez, you're done with your test. Let me let you out. So he just walks me through the hallway and opens the door for me. And then one of them says, like, man, you got lucky. And I just ignored him. I just walk out, right? And he's like, hey, your homie's talking to you. And I lamented my homies, and I just kept walking, you know. And that was close, and that was like, oh man, you know. But when I think about it now, it's like I was so dumb, you know. I was like, because I was prideful, and even though I was trying to change my life, it's hard to get these beliefs off, you know, your head.
Yeah, I'm tripping out as you're telling me this, because we go back to the beginning of the interview when I asked you the question about how did you decide to take a life, and then it appears to me like you're going to his classes, doing all these things, and it shifted something in your brain to make a different decision, which now puts your life in jeopardy. It's a wild, it's completely different end of the spectrum. Where like you've been faced with major decisions, I guess, since you were a young kid, and then it just follows you. Yeah. And by the grace of God, I mean, I believe in God, so it's like that CO walked out, saved you there, whatever. That could have sliced you open. Even if you got the better of someone, that's one move, that's it. We're not talking. Yeah. It's just crazy how you can have that mental shift. And I guess what I want to ask is, you do attribute that to the work you're doing, that like, because you did this work, that's how you all of a sudden made the decision, like, I'm out and I'll risk my life to be out, essentially. Yeah. Yeah. Because I was, like I said, I was reflecting more. Like I was like more in touch with my emotions, my thoughts, you know, and I got to see it. Like I got to start understanding that. Like I remember one concept that Mark Taylor said in one class. He was like, do you guys understand that the man whose life he took was not only a financial provider, that he provided dreams, hopes, love, support. And I have never thought of it that way at that time, you know. So there were little things like that. And then having to write a remorse letter, having to, like, what do you say? You know, like there's nothing you can say. Yeah. You know. Yeah, because you're looking at the other person. You don't think about any of that stuff. All you think about is like, you're my rival. Exactly. You're my rival, and you're from the other side of the tracks. So I'm gonna do whatever I can to make sure that I hurt you, or do I do whatever I'm gonna do to you. Yeah. You know? The teachings, like I remember too, like and I read this. I think I looked it up for a class. And it's like the process of dehumanizing when like the studies they had made on genocides, right? Like what is the process of dehumanizing a human being, right? You call him something less than a human, right? And that's the same thing that gangs do. Like you call them your enemies, you diss them, you create nicknames. Like, oh, you're a dog, you're this, you're a cockroach, all that type of stuff. A piece of this, right? Yeah, yeah. And then you use euphemisms. You don't say, I'm gonna murder this human being, or I'm gonna kill this human, I'm gonna smoke it, I'm gonna do. You start using all these things, right? So it almost like it makes it more like accessible, more possible for you to do it, you know. So I was like I said, I was learning all these things, and you know, like I have like
my like and this is a big motivation for me. Like I have my son, right?
Mm.
And my son was in my life, and thank God he was in my life, because I would see this little kid and I will hold him, right? And I remember like the first time, because when I was in juvenile hall, foster care took him, right? So I fought his case for like a year and a half, and my mother ended up adopting him, but I only saw him like twice in juvenile hall, and then behind the glass, because county jail is behind the glass, reception behind the glass. And I remember that when he went to see me, Ironwood, he ran to me, you know, and I felt like, man, like I don't deserve that, you know. I don't, like it broke me, right? Because like, you know, like this is this like innocent person that accepts me, that loves me, that doesn't know what I'm here for, and he runs to hug me, you know. So having him, like I started thinking about like, I want to be a better father, you know. I want to be somebody different, right? And I would tell myself like, I'm gonna push myself, even with the workouts, right? You know, like the vicious workouts we were doing inside, and I didn't want to do it, man. I'm like, fuck, man, I want to quit, you know.
Yeah.
But I would tell myself like, how you gonna tell your son to push his limits if you don't push yours, you know?
Right.
How you gonna tell your son do your homework if you don't do yours, you know? Like things like that. Like, and I would just like push myself harder, and you know, when I thought about everything, I said, well, how you gonna tell your son don't join gangs if you're a gang man, right? How you gonna tell your son don't solve your problems with violence if you don't know how to talk to people, you know? So you know, when I finally came to make that decision, all these things were empowering, you know, like the community of men in Ironwood that were changing their lives. My Sally, you know, great person. Like this is people that motivated me, my friends that were close to me. And then like my family didn't abandon me. You know, that was one of the biggest things. Yeah. Because if I didn't have anybody, I would have felt hopeless all over again. You know, because I already felt hopeless in the streets, and then in prison, I would have just like let go. You know, and you know, I just like I made that decision, and like I said, I felt empowered. I felt driven, and I felt like I knew where I was going. And even though I didn't know when, I never lost hope that I was going to come home.
You believed it, though, in your heart of hearts.
Yeah.
So 11 and a half years.
Yes.
Right? You come home. You've been home how long already?
Almost 3 months.
3 months.
Welcome home, brother.
Thank you.
3 months.
Truly. Welcome
how
home.
does the future look for you? What's the goal? What's the plan?
So I know that. So for myself, I feel like I'm a simple man. Like I love life. It's beautiful. The little things matter so much. So I would tell you that humbly, I just want to be a father, a husband, a son, a brother, you know. But at the same time, I have aspirations, you know. Like I know that I've been given a voice and a platform that I can stand on, right? So using my story, like the film introduced one side of me, right? I wanna present myself to the world now as a 20-year-old man, right? Like I've lived all these things now. I have so much to say, right?
Right.
I have so much to say to kids, like it's that we're hopeless, because when I was in juvie, even being there, like I remember that Scott took people in and they would give us things, like they would give us like little nuggets of wisdom, and you know, like some of them stuck with me, and I didn't show them at the moment, but they gave me hope. Right. They gave me strength, you know. So that's one of my biggest things now. Like I just went to talk to some kids and you were there, and that was my biggest thing. I know that maybe one thing of what I say today is gonna stay with you, and however you make it yours, that's on you, you know. But I want to give you how it helped me, what it helped me, you know. So definitely getting involved, you know, getting involved in the movement and participating in something greater, you know. Like I'm excited, you know. I'm excited, I'm happy, and just live life, enjoy it,
as you should be. And I'm glad, and you know, it's cool that you're talking about sharing this other side of you. And then of course we know why you were quiet on the documentary, but still you were still quiet, and that was the only part of the story told. So I really do appreciate you coming here to share that other side with you, man. It's not easy to do. It's not. I mean, when people see people on a podcast, even for myself, when it's our own show, I feel uncomfortable. And so you're coming in, we just met, and you're just you've clearly done enough work to be vulnerable like this and talk about like some deep shit that people can never fathom of experiencing, and yet you're doing that. And that, as I told you before we started recording, like that's the purpose of the damn show, man. Doesn't matter how many people are watching, it's that corny tagline of like, if it reaches one person, changes someone's life. And it's clear that it's clear to me, clear to you, I'm sure it's clear to you, that like that's your mission, and like that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, because I believe there's a lot of people out there, like you said earlier, like the documentary blew up. Like it really, a lot of people watched it. It was so a lot of people out there were probably looking like, oh, that's what they deserve.
Mhm.
They should get that.
Yeah.
You know, they should get that. They committed a heinous crime. That's the perfect sentence for them.
For sure.
Because they're animals. Now, hopefully, with the podcast, with this one and others that you've been doing, they could see the other side of you. They could see the they could humanize you.
Yes.
Because at one point they're probably looking at you like, yeah, they deserve that.
Yeah.
Not only him, but all of them in that, or
Yeah.
anybody that commits that kind of crime.
As a side note, what was super interesting to me as I was sitting here was like, you were his teacher. So I know he's doing other shows, but like that's a wild thing for you two to have been inside those prison walls for as long as you two were.
Yeah.
Who you became, and then who he helped push you in that direction of who you became. And I'm like, damn, like I don't know if you were on other podcasts with your other teachers or anything like that, but like that's some wild shit.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah, there's cycles of healing as well as cycles of violence.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there's like
That's a good
different
point,
kinds
man.
of
That's
cycles.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
truly.
Yeah.
That was fucking profound.
I think that follow-up documentary should happen though, because
For sure.
that is such validation for
It
the
is.
legislation to see you guys doing well.
It's gonna happen.
I think that's important.
I
And,
agree.
Yeah.
and one thing too, and then I know this is Juan's podcast, but his good friend of mine too, Jared.
Jared.
He's been out a little bit longer than Juan, and he's killing it, bro.
Yeah.
He works in the Capitol. Yeah, he's doing these great speaking engagements out there in the Capitol.
Yeah.
He's going all over the country and speaking and sharing his truth and sharing that, hey man, this is what happened.
Yeah.
And-
Antonio too, the little guy, he's starting to.
Yeah.
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 because he was the one that was sort of forgotten, because I didn't even know what happened to him, but
Yeah.
that's good to know that he's coming back around.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, people need to know that legislation can affect you and it can work
and work in a positive way.
There's a reason to
Yeah.
vote. There's a reason to
Yeah,
For
participate.
Yes.
And
This
'cause
is it right here.
if you talk to anybody, 9 out of 10 people will be like, politicians don't do anything,
Mhm.
and they're very apathetic. But
Right.
good things happen if you pay attention.
yeah,
I agree.
true,
Yeah.
true.
I mean, hopefully we get everyone here to talk about your stories and just keep following that show.
Did you say you wrote a memoir just in prison?
No.
Oh, I thought I heard you say it earlier.
No, he had
Yeah.
so many letters from fans that it was
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a
yeah.
memoir.
Do you write though?
I write
Yeah.
poetry. Yeah.
Yeah, you come across as like a creative.
Yeah, like a creative, deep person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I made that up in my head.
I should start writing the memoir.
Yeah, you did.
No,
I'm a star.
He's
Yo,
a
you gotta
star.
start. Yeah.
That's a great
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
That's a
Yeah,
great
because
idea.
you're very expressive and
yeah.
yeah.
Shit, man.
And one of the biggest things, like you guys are saying right now, the ultimate thing I think for politicians to know is that we have the potential to change. Like you've seen, like how many people you run into inside, and you're like, man, like what are you doing here? Like
For
you
sure.
have so much talent. You have like maybe we didn't start it that way, but we became these insightful people. We became this person that like. You remember the two elbows that got commuting?
Mhm.
These people didn't have hope 37 years in, and they changed their life completely.
Right.
And they never gave up, and I would think about these people, and I mean, like, how do you do it, man? How do you live life meaningfully when you have no hope, you know?
For sure.
I remember one of my good friends that was at LWAP at one point. He shared with me that when he made his decision to change, even though he was LWAP and he knew he probably was never going to come home. This is before Senate Bill 9 and all these laws started changing. He shared with me, he goes, I knew that I wasn't going to come home because of my sentence. He goes, but what I wanted my family to see the change in me, whether I was free or in prison. And I took that to heart. I took it to heart where, okay, I might not ever be home or come home, but at least my family could see the real me, who I am today.
For sure.
And I'm not, like my man was saying earlier, faking the funk,
Yeah.
No.
like being someone that I'm not.
Yeah.
And that's why he's home today.
Thank God you're home, man.
Thank you.
And we'll close on that truly.
Yeah,
Like I
absolutely.
appreciate you being here. Everyone that's still watching and listening, we appreciate that too. And everyone's gonna keep rooting for you, man. I know it.
Thank you.
I know it. And
Thank you.
thanks for tuning in,
Thank
man.
you for the space. Yeah.
Thank you, big bro.
Of
Thank you.
course.
Good job. Good job, buddy.
Great job.